Good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you may be, or good evening, or good night. This is Jen at Jen's Arty Inclinations, a place to create, share, and play.
Hello everyone. Well, on the weekend I woke up and decided, you know what, I just feel like making a junk journal notebook. So that's what I did. Here I'm preparing the cover. This is a piece that I'd backed with rice paper. It was just a background I painted and then I sewed all over it, and what I wanted to do was do a calico inside cover. I really love the feel of how these come out. So then I went around once I'd glued it down and I sewed it down with all these like wonky stitches around the edge. I wanted it to be really rustic and really handmade looking, something that, I don't know, some lady of old has put together because she needed some notes for her chickens or something. But anyway, so here I'm just trimming off the edges, I'm tearing it, I'm ripping it, I'm cutting threads. I'm just trying to give it that real weathered, worn look. I'd already pulled out some papers. I decided that one would be cute for the inside cover, and then I find if I lay them out like this, it helps me decide on which pages I'm using, what order I'm going to put them in. I used a variety of pages. I used some piano sheets. I used some backgrounds that I'd stenciled. I used some brown paper that had been aged, and on one side it's a different colour. Like, you'll see all these in a minute. I even used one of my pianola sheets of paper finally. I keep forgetting that I've got them. This is lovely. It's an old book, an old kid's book, and someone had actually done the crossword in it, which I love that when you get handwriting on different things. Here is the tip that I got from Rach at Rach and Bella to print onto your paper. And of course, I've already jammed my printer because I didn't follow her advice that maybe you shouldn't put in pages that are a little bit old, because I got too excited. But anyway, I'll fix that. Now, here with the brown paper, you can see it's a different colour on both sides. And all I did was, rather than cut it down or trim it down, I folded it. So I figured, there can be a pocket in the middle of this book. These are some mono prints that I did, or that one that just went by, phew, over there. They were some mono prints that I did. I really like doing them just with simple one colour ink. Now, I looked at that page and I went, you know what? It needs a border. So I went and did a crazy sew around it to make a border. I actually really like how that cover sheet turned out. So here I'm just putting them in. When I put them all back together after I've folded them, I just double check that they're going to look okay beside each other. So now I'm getting ready to sew. I made sure the pages are nice and snug into the spine. And what I did, I often do this, make a little template. It's quite handy to do a template if you're doing a few different signatures, but I don't know why. I just thought I'd do one on this anyway. So I did a scrap of paper, the length that the spine is. Then I folded it in half lengthways and folded in half the other way. Look, you can see what I'm doing there, because then that little spot in the centre gives me my centre spot. So I put a little pen mark so that I can see it well. And then I just fold up the edges, I don't know, anywhere from, I think the official measurement is 3/8 of an inch or 5/8. Anyway, I do it about that much from the end. You can see it, right? And then I just stick it under my clips. The clips are great at holding everything in place while you work. Makes it much easier. Now, once I know that it's in the spine, I'm grabbing my thread. I use waxed thread. You can actually just wax your own thread. I just get some ready-made. And you can see I measured 3 times the height of the book. I'm just threading that up while I punch my holes. So that little template, I know I'm in the right spot. And I've held it up there. I find this, it's the way that I first learnt how to punch the holes, and that is you punch your awl at a 45-degree angle while holding your book pages at a 90-degree angle, and then you will always go through the very centre of the spine. So I guess it's the first way I learnt, so it's the way I've continued to do it. I did a little diagram for you. I don't know if it helps, but that blue line is the paper. This is how it's done. As you can see, I'm trying to poke a hole here, but it's just not going through easily. Now, when that happens, simply grab your needle or your awl again and poke the hole the other way. You'll find it'll usually work, and that'll just free that up. You don't want to force it because otherwise you're not going to get it through that hole that you've created. So out through the center, and then I very carefully hold that end of the thread so that I can then go through the top. Oh, don't you love that stenciled center page? Like, just an accident, but I love that massive big butterfly in it, and the colors are really lovely. So yeah, I've gone out through the center, sorry, back to where I was, out through the center, in through the top, and now we're on the inside, so we're going back out through the bottom, and then we'll go up through that same hole in the center. So the only tricky thing about going up through that hole is you don't want to go through the thread that's already in that hole. You want to make sure that you go beside the thread. Otherwise, you won't be able to tighten it up properly. So I tend to kind of hold that thread out of the way a little bit as I'm putting the other thread through. And again, it just didn't feel like it was going through fully. So I went out through the other way just to make sure that I was going to miss that thread. And then I came back up through the middle. Now, the only thing when you're tying off is you obviously want to make sure you're on either side of that thread. But firstly, just tighten it. Be very careful because obviously you can tear your pages. The wax thread helps, but you don't want to pull them so tightly that you're going to rip your pages. So you just want it firm to make sure it's going to hold, and then you tie a knot. And as you can see, the thread is on either side of that center piece. So just tightening it up, I'm tying a knot. Right over left and under, and then left over right and under. Just a simple reef knot. Nothing rocket science, not that anything of mine is ever rocket science. And there, it's all done. You have a beautiful book. And I love the pamphlet stitch, the 3-hole pamphlet stitch. I sometimes do the 5-hole, but I'm amazed at how well the 3-hole pamphlet stitch holds on things. It's pretty cool. So there you go. Voila. Now, what I wanted to do, then I realised that I'd left the template in. See, you don't need to do that. It's supposed to only be for punching your holes. And anyway, so don't sew over it. Just, get rid of it once you're sewing, but you get the gist. All right. Here, I decided you can just tie off the ends and cut the end so that it's nice and short, and then you've got a normal book center. I cannot remember where I first saw this idea, but I love putting charms in the middle of my actual signatures. Instead of just tying them off as loose ends, I find charms are nice and flat. I love beads as well, but charms work really well. I'm just using the awl there to try and get the knot as close to the end as what I can. I just did a simple overhead knot. Now I'm just going to snip off my pieces. See, there I go. Oh, gee, I'm clever. I knew what I was going to do, maybe because I've already done it. So I just had a quick check through, and then I thought, right, well, I said it was going to be a notebook, so let's make it a notebook. And I just used the lines that I already had. So in a moment, my son's going to come and visit here in a moment. But yeah, I cut out, here he is.
Lovely.
He's actually going to press down some. So this is an old stamp that I actually made. I found it was easy. It's like nice wonky lines. It's lovely, really. I just find it's the perfect size for a lot of the pages that I use. Works really well. I just did these, I think, just in brown ink, and I went over almost every page. And then, obviously, I went back to do the pockets. On this first one, I just didn't quite like how the edge was, so I decided that I'd sort of firm it up a little bit because it's only on the one edge, this actual pocket. So I grabbed another piece of scrap that I had from the edge of a book page just to put on the back of it, and then I used a calico strip, one of the calico strips that I'd torn off the edge, and I put that on the front of it. Just used some fabric glue to make sure it's stuck down. And I used the fabric glue on the edge as well to paste the pocket in because I feel it's just a bit stronger. So you'll see I just put a strip there, and then voila, instant pocket that you've pre-folded. So isn't that good? And there you go, that became a lovely bit of scrap paper, that diagram I did. I don't know. Looking back at that now, it's probably useless. But then obviously I did the other pocket. It was so funny. I had so much trouble deciding how I'd do this corner. So in the end, I went, all right, let's just cut a bit, make it less bulky and fold it down and stop making it rocket science, which I think is what I was trying to do. Like, if there's a way to complicate it, I promise you, I will find that way. I love the crinkle and the wrinkles in that paper. So, I mean, I could put all this under weights, and I probably will at some point. So then, just to kind of make the pages feel a bit finished, to add a little bit more interest, I just grabbed a drawer of stamps, mainly botanical kind of stamps, and I did lots of random stamping in the corners of the pages. And I felt like, as I said, that just gives it a nice little bit of finish. Now, those images that I printed out, I cannot remember where I got them from, and I don't think I saved, but they were just digital prints from Etsy, which was really good. I think I looked up black and white perfume bottles or something at one point. So yeah, random stamping in the corner. I went backwards and forwards, and then I kind of finished off with this little butterfly in all the pages that didn't have something else, and I went to town because I don't think it's a project of mine unless it's got a butterfly. I'm pretty sure all of my projects have a butterfly. So here I had mucked about with stamping and I'd gone backwards and forwards, but I wanted a title page. This little piece was from Adamo Prints that was on Etsy, so I had managed to keep the edge on that, so that was me just showing you that. Yeah, so I had a few false starts on this little cover page. I thought this was really cute. I had tried to stamp underneath it, but because it was all so shiny, I don't know, I wasn't patient enough to let it dry, and then I smudged it, and so I went, that's all right, let's just collage on top. Isn't that what it's for, to cover up? Oh no, it's actually for pretty art, but it's like, this time it was to cover up. And because I'd done that border with that little funny bit at the bottom, it just kind of felt like it worked well. That's my theory. So I just put it above that little sewing. It's almost like an infinity loop, isn't it, looking at it now? An infinite possibilities book. How does that sound? And that little renew was really cute. It was a word that was on fabric. So then I cut out the fabric and I put it on, and well, you can kind of see what I did there. So then I realized I wanted to do something for the front. So this is probably backwards. I put the one with the word inside, and then I decided to put a blank one on the outside. So these little labels came from my little kit at Your Creative Studio. That is a monthly subscription that I have. It's just gorgeous. And last month they were all butterflies. How good is that for my first month? And it was my birthday month. So yeah, that was awesome. Now, this is funny because I tore it with the ruler and then I tore off that top edge. So then I went, okay, I'll tear it again. And even with the ruler, I tore the same edge. So anyway, it just added more rustic, handmade, weathered kind of look for it. But I still put another edge under the bottom, and you'll see here, I just kind of pasted it. But I kind of like that layered look that it ended up getting. I'm just pressing down the back to make sure that they're nice and strong. And here it is, the finished book, complete with the pockets, the pianola pieces, the crosswords. There's my little centre charms. You can see the butterfly stamp there better. So I hope you really enjoyed. And now I've got another little notebook to use. I do actually tend to use these, but this one might end up being gifted. It was just something I felt like making today. You can like and subscribe below, and as always, keep creating. See you next time. Bye.